Hey, welcome back. So if I could go back to the moment that everything fell apart, these are the lessons I'd give myself, the things that I would tell myself before I actually decided to leave and change everything. So if you're thinking about changing your life, then this episode is for you. So in this, I'm probably going to talk about 4 or 5 different aspects, things that I have learned from being on the road for 3 years, and things that are now kind of non-negotiables in terms of how I try and frame things, how I try and understand things that happen to me, as ultimately nothing is perfect and I still have moments and days where I doubt things or worry or kind of fall back into old patterns and cycles. So these are just kind of things that I would obviously tell myself, like the lessons that I've learned. The first one, and this is the biggest one for me, it's essentially combating the anxious mind. So it's understanding that your mind doesn't know the outcome. And whilst that might seem very simplistic, and I don't want to belittle kind of anyone's experiences, as someone that suffered with anxiety a lot, I think it's always hard to take advice, and it's hard to, especially when it's so simple. Like when someone comes to you and says, yeah, it's as straightforward as this, I think it's hard to comprehend and hard to accept when it's something that you really struggle with and something that is like impacting your day to day or stopping you from taking those steps that you want to take. So for me, what I have learned with regards to my anxiety and how it shows up for me, I will always try and think everything through. So if I have sort of a plan or a goal or something that I want to change or work towards, my brain will actively try and think of all of the steps. So it will think of the outcome, it will think of, well, what if this happens? Or if this happens, you should come up with a plan for that. And it's essentially self-preservation, and your mind will always try and protect you. And ultimately, how to get out of that, or how I've managed to not necessarily get out of it, because I think I still do it and I still am guilty of it, but I think your brain will always try and stay with what's comfortable, right? So if you are in a job or a relationship or any sort of situation which is your day-to-day and is your routine and what you know, it's much easier to convince yourself to stay. And that goes both ways. It's the same for me being here, right? So I did a reel about it not so long ago about the concept of me going home is actually scarier for me and creates more anxiety than maybe for you watching this, of leaving. So it's interesting how your brain shifts. So this is really comfortable for me, being away from home, having this kind of freedom and not having like a base, and that routine being a routine or a structure for a set period of time before I inevitably change my location. So the idea of going home, that creates anxiety, that creates those questions of, well, what would that look like? What would I do to earn money? Where would I live? Like all of those things that you probably do about leaving, whether that's a job or maybe sort of a situation or relationship or whatever that may look like for you. So the thing that I have sort of got to in order to combat that is essentially understanding that your mind doesn't know. You want to believe that you know, you want to believe that you can predict the outcome, but the truth is you can't. And the only way you can reveal the next steps from any sort of life experience as you go through life, it's as you start doing something, those problems or those hurdles will naturally come up, because nothing is going to be perfect, but you can't predict when or how they are going to come up. And there's obviously so many aspects which will be positive. So I think it's hard to not sort of jump to that anxious mind of, well, what could go wrong? But if you can, and I'm trying not to be super simplistic with it, but if you can try and take the mindset of not even, well, what could go right, but just, okay, it's like sit with yourself, take a deep breath and sort of go, okay, well, what are my fears? So my fears are that it could go wrong, that this might happen, or what if I'm lonely, or what if I run out of money? But all of those things are exactly how you phrase it. It's what ifs. You don't know, and by taking the step out of what you know, you automatically create new opportunities for yourself. You meet new people, you find new opportunities that you wouldn't find had you have stayed in the same place. So it's understanding, for me, that your mind will try and protect you. Your mind will try and keep you, even if something is bad for you, and even if something is negative and it's consistently proven that it's negative, your mind will keep you there because it's safe. So that brings me nicely onto step 2, or lesson 2 should we say, which is that the paths and the steps will always reveal themselves as you start making them. So again, it's something that I always have tried to do, is work out all of the steps before I take the first step. So, okay, if I want to achieve X, I don't know, I want to start a business, then how does that look? So what product am I going to sell? How much is it going to cost? Where am I going to market myself? Like every single aspect of my mind wants to create all of it. So if that's you go traveling, coming up with like a huge itinerary, booking all your flights, making sure that everything is perfect so then nothing can go wrong. But ultimately you can't prevent things from going wrong, and also you can't know all of the steps, as I spoke about in the previous point. And what happens with me, and I'm sure maybe you can relate to this, is it actually just creates that kind of freeze response, because you try and figure out all of the steps. You try and figure out not just the first step. Sometimes you probably even skip the first step, I know I do, and you're thinking about the end goal so much, and you try and work backwards, so then you've got no blind spots. But then ultimately you just get so caught up in planning and worrying or trying to figure out what step 8 is. But ultimately you might take the first one and then it takes you a completely different way. So you might plan for step 8, but ultimately you don't even get there. So I think for me, it's being comfortable with the unknown and being comfortable with that insecurity of things can change, and essentially just being like open to things changing and being open to change your mind. I know a big thing which I want to speak about in another video is the concept of, I have told someone that I'm going to do it, right? So I am going to leave my job and I'm going to travel. So then you leave your job and you start traveling, and maybe 3 or 4 months in you go, do you know what, this isn't what I thought it was. This isn't for me, and it's not really worked out, and actually I miss my job and I miss my lifestyle at home. What can be really difficult is actually making the steps to go back, because you've told everyone, you've started saying about all of the travel, and you left your job, and there's all of those fears of, oh well, I was wrong, or actually admitting that. So it's understanding that you can change your mind, and it's perfectly reasonable and acceptable to change your mind. Sometimes you don't know if something's for you or not for you until you try it. So I would always encourage people to go for it and not necessarily blow everything up to the extent that maybe I did with leaving and heading the other side of the world, but just rather than trying to plan for every outcome and worrying about what steps you want to take in order to get to your goal, let's just take the first one. So if you are someone that has a fitness goal, for example, rather than worrying about what your program is going to be or all of those kind of things that might come up, it's, well, let's go for step 1, let's go for a walk, let's start taking the steps towards the outcome. You can understand, or you can quite easily find out what your first step is, and then it's just building the confidence to take the first step. But I think the problem that I have, and possibly you can relate to, is you get caught up in step 8, step 15, and it just becomes overwhelming. I mean, even thinking about step 2 and step 3 can be overwhelming. So I think if you do feel stuck, it's okay, what can I control right now? I can't control the past, I can't control the future, but I can sort of position myself or direct myself in a certain way to try and influence the future. And ultimately what I can control is right now. So what steps can I take in the moment, today, later on today, like in the immediate future, what steps can I take? And I think just on that, it's understanding that you have time. I think we really push ourselves and rush into trying to have everything figured out and trying to be set up or finished by the time we're 30, and it's just not reasonable. And I think even if you achieved everything you wanted to achieve by the time you were 30, well, you've still got 30 odd years, 40 years. I mean, in the UK, I think retirement age is pushing up towards 70 now. So even if I flew home tomorrow, right? I'm 32, I'm 33 next year. So even if I flew home tomorrow, I applied for a job, and I don't know, let's say I started training as an engineer. I went to university, studied all of the things, got all of the qualifications that I needed, and at 35 I became an engineer, right? And 36, whatever the age is, well, I could still work as an engineer for 30 years if I wanted to. So it's really understanding that there is no rush to have everything figured out. And I think the beauty of this life and this experience is getting things wrong, and it's how we move forwards, it's how we build ourselves up. Because if we stay in the same spaces because we're scared of like the outcome, then I don't think we progress. The next biggest thing for me is essentially falling in love with the concept of being a beginner. So understanding that it won't be perfect, understanding that when you start something new, and I think my best analogy is surfing, because that's something that I've picked up later in life. So I started surfing sort of on and off the last couple of years, but it's only really been the last year, minus some injuries, that I have been investing my time into surfing. And it's easy to look around at some of the kids and some of the 20-somethings that have been surfing since they could walk and how good they are, and it's easy to get demotivated by that. But it's bringing everything into your own personal experience and showing yourself that it's okay to be a beginner, it's okay to suck at something. And as those goalposts move, so as you progress in whatever sport, whatever business, whatever field you're progressing in, you will continue to fail. I mean, just think about the job you're in now. When you first started, you didn't know where things were, you had to ask for help more often than not, and then 2 years passed, 5 years passed, and you kind of do your job without even really thinking about it. It just becomes second nature. And I think as we get older, because we stop doing new things and we stop being beginners, we lose that edge to be comfortable with being bad and being comfortable with being a beginner. So it stops us from doing things, because I speak to people all the time that, and I understand in certain circumstances, if you have dependents or things that are definitive, then of course you can't just stop earning a certain salary. But I think when there's that fear of starting again because you have set yourself sort of a lifestyle, or you have achieved something, even if you feel like you've reached a ceiling in whatever it is, sometimes you have to go back, maybe take a sideward step, maybe even start again completely, and maybe earn less in order to thrive and push yourself forwards in order to earn more in the long run. And I think it's difficult. I think it's easy for me to say, and it's easy for me to make those sacrifices when I don't have any dependents. But I did at the same time give up quite a lot. So I think, I'm not saying that everyone should just give everything up, but it's that concept of being a beginner, that concept of understanding that you will not have it figured out. It all plays into not knowing the steps. It all plays into the anxious mind. So it all kind of comes into the same framework and the same ability to reframe your situation. The next thing, so the fourth thing, is taking advice from people who haven't done it. So again, this is something which I think is huge, and I think it's something that we don't really speak about, or something that we maybe realize is we will always take advice from our peers and our parents and our friends, our colleagues, people that we're close to. But what I think and I don't want to generalize and say we, but I think people fail to consider, something that I definitely fail to consider, is it's when you ask for advice and take advice from people that aren't living how you want to live, and you're learning from people or surrounding yourself with people that aren't living the way that you envision, or they're not inspiring you. And again, I don't want to sit here and say cut everyone off, because I think it's toxic, and I think that kind of setting extreme boundaries and cutting people off is kind of sort of toxic positivity in kind of today's modern world. But I just think it's understanding who you're taking information from, right? So if you look at your social media feed, who are you following? What accounts are you following, and what sort of content do they share to you? What are you watching on Netflix? What are these things that you're consuming, and how is that affecting your state of mind? So if you're consuming content and information from people who are where you want to be, or are working towards where you want to be, then I find that can be far more motivating, far more inspiring to move forwards than if you were following and engaging with content that is where you're stuck or where you were in the past. And I think that's fine. Like, it's nice to relate to content that maybe someone that explains where you were before, but I think we have to keep moving forwards. We have to keep taking those next steps in order to find the next step, so we can keep moving forwards. And again, it's taking advice from your parents, for example. Yes, that may be really beneficial, and you may have really supportive parents. I know I have supportive parents, but at the same time, if I take advice from my parents who haven't traveled and haven't necessarily gone through the experiences or taken the steps and risks that I've taken, you can find yourself being talked out of things. Those seeds of doubt that they have then become your seeds of doubt. Whereas if you are speaking to people who are actively embodying what you want to become or your experiences, then you can see what they did and what didn't work for them and what worked for them. And overall, that becomes better for you achieving whatever it is that you want to achieve. The final thing, which I think is maybe a little bit more spiritual or woo-woo, should we say, I think it's understanding where the resistance is. So I'm a big believer in energies and the universe kind of controlling things around us. So I kind of look for messages in sort of the little things, and wherever I am, I essentially just kind of look out to see where there's resistance, right? So for me, when I was in the police and when I was in Northampton and when I was in certain relationships and certain friendships, I just felt like I couldn't win. Like, I felt that there was so much resistance all of the time, and things would keep going wrong, and I would just keep getting frustrated because it just felt like everything was against me all of the time. And just even small things, right? Like, you're driving home and you hit every single red light. You go to the coffee shop and they've run out of whatever it is you want. Like, just all of this resistance all of the time. How I've reframed all of that and how I kind of work within my own experience now is I'm not sat here every day looking around, being like hyper aware of what's happening around me, but just judging those sort of synchronicities. So if I'm in the right place, or I think I'm in the right place, things are going well, and I'm meeting the right people. I'm sort of having conversations with people, and even if it's just a passing conversation, but it makes you think, oh, that's cool, or that's an idea. Or, you're sort of scrolling on Instagram and you see a post which sparks something in your mind. maybe even just, yeah, to go back to the green light, to the lights analogy, is you know when you drive home and you hit every green light and you feel amazing, or you take a left turn and then all of a sudden you find something which you've never even knew existed before, and all of a sudden you found your new favorite place. So again, I just feel like if you're in the right place and you're in the right spaces, then the universe will align with you and synchronicities will happen in order to keep telling you and nudging you along that you're doing the right things and you're the right place. So I think it's important to show a level of self-awareness to understand what you're actively participating in, where there's resistance, where are you actively participating in that. So yeah, I just think I repeated myself, but if you're noticing a lot of resistance in your life, then why is that? And maybe there's aspects of that you can change. I know, again, I don't want to promote sort of extreme cutting people off and giving everything up. However, I have left friendships in the past and moved away from people in sort of ended relationships and things. And at the time, obviously, it's really difficult and it hurts and you miss them and sometimes it's difficult to explain. And I'm not for one instant suggesting you say, oh, I don't think we should be friends anymore because I'm feeling a resistance in our friendship. But you know, when you meet up with those friends and you feel drained, you don't feel energized or inspired. So I just think it's understanding. It comes back to the taking advice from people who haven't done it and sort of the content that you're engaging with and digesting. So I think if I could, to summarize, if I could tell myself those 5 things before I left and kind of had to figure all of this out over the course of those 3 years and over the course of getting things wrong and staying in relationships for too long or staying in places for too long, like those kind of things, it would be that to start taking steps. That would be the first one. The second one would be to understand that it won't be perfect and to fall in love with the process of being a beginner. 3, it would be take advice from people who have done it and avoid taking advice from people that haven't. 4, checking what it is you're consuming and where there's resistance in your life and trying to move away from that. And then finally, it's just having that ability to have that conversation with your mind that I understand that I'm anxious that this might go wrong. I understand that my mind is trying to protect me, but my mind doesn't know. Your mind can't possibly predict what is going to happen because you haven't done it yet. And as you go through life and as you continue to have experiences, you learn that you think something's going to go a certain way and it doesn't, it goes a different way. So yeah, those are the 5 points. I hope that was helpful. I hope it was engaging. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you on the next one, which is going to be dating whilst traveling. So hit subscribe and I will see you very soon. Peace.